Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with How I Discovered Composer X. Composer X is Mussorgsky. I mean, we all know how we discovered Mussorgsky, right? It is either from A Night on Bald Mountain or pictures at an exhibition in Ravel's orchestration, or maybe something from Boris Godunov or Dawn on the Moskva River from Khovanshchina if we were like strange children. But I wasn't. My mother had a record collection. One of the things she loved, one of her very favorite pieces, was pictures at an exhibition. And we had the best possible introduction to it because we had Eugene Ormandy at the Philadelphia Orchestra on Sony, which is still really like one of the reference recordings of it ever. I mean, maybe the reference recording. It's amazing, absolutely amazing, and I love it to this day. I am actually not usually sentimentally attached to versions that I imprint on. I am more than willing to, accept other views and better views sometimes, if I think they're better anyway. But that one, ooh, that's a hard one to beat, a really hard one to beat. Anyway, I think Mussorgsky is the perfect introduction to classical music. I mean, I couldn't have been more than like in the single digits when I first heard pictures in an exhibition. I mean, I was a little kid and my mother loved it and I loved it. I mean, and it's such a perfect way to get to know classical music because it teaches you so much stuff effortlessly. Absolutely effortlessly. I mean, think about it. Pictures in an exhibition is a suite, illustrating, obviously, these photos, the pictures, photos, portraits, paintings, sketches, whatever they were. And you don't really need to see the paintings. I never saw any of the paintings. I had no idea what any of them were about. And I was just going by the titles. And the titles, some of them you'll know, and some of them you won't, which is ideal. You know what a promenade is, or you ask your mom, and it's walking between the pictures, and it comes back over and over again, imposing a structure on the piece. So you think a little bit about form, which is really handy. And then you've got, Gnomus and the old castle and these characters and people, this procession, Bydlo and the hut on Fowl's Legs, Baba Yaga. You can look into this if you want. But if you don't have to, you don't have to. If you don't want to, you just use your imagination. And the music speaks for itself. And that's what's so wonderful about it. So it's actually better, I think, if you know some of them and you don't know others. Because one of them, you will, some of them you can say, well, does the music sound like what I think it should sound like? And in others, you let the music create the picture for you and tell you what it is it's illustrating. And the combination of doing both, that duality, is really what music's all about. Listening to music is either going to be something that it tells you what it is and you buy it or you don't buy it, or something that allows you to bring your own imagination to bear and create the picture in your own mind. So that's a wonderful lesson to learn. And you don't even know you're learning it. You just do it. That's what's so cool about it. And then, of course, there's Ravel's orchestration, which is unbelievable. Now, I know some people say, oh, I prefer the piano original. I don't have any confidence in those people. Everyone has the right to like what they like. But Ravel's orchestration is one of the miracles of the orchestral art. It tells you everything you need to know about what the modern symphony orchestra can do, number one, and does it in the most voluptuous, colorful, scintillating, lyrical, fabulous way. Of course, Mussorgsky's own tunes are extraordinary and just marvelous. So that's that. But it raises a whole other issue, because if you get curious about music, if you're curious about classical music, you've got to learn a lot of things about it, right? And one of the things you're going to learn is how stuff gets arranged and presented. And Mussorgsky, if you look into his life, you realize he was like a major alcoholic who died young and finished almost nothing. And everything he did was rewritten by other people. And that is kind of an interesting concept to wrap your brain around when you're first getting into music. I mean, it teaches us that even great works of art do not always spring forth from the head of Zeus fully formed. You know what I mean? They take a little working on, and sometimes other people get involved. And that's a very good thing to know. It's a good thing to know that Ravel orchestrated it. It's a very good thing to know that there's a piano original that you can enjoy. Now, I, of course, immediately went to listen to the piano original when I found out that there was one, and I hated it. Oh, it was so mealy-mouthed, boring, uninteresting next to Ravel's orchestration. I mean, the climaxes weren't there. The color wasn't there. You can appreciate eventually, when you're older than 6 or 7 or 8, or however age I was, great piano playing. But Pictures in an Exhibition particularly gets you to thinking about what is the medium that the music was written for. Because you can make, pardon me, the lawn guys out there, you can make a very, very good argument that it was not really written ultimately for the piano, but the piano is a transcription of an imaginary orchestral final version, because so much of it is just unpianistic. I mean, not that there can't be great performances of it, but there is just no question, it's not even debatable, that a lot of the writing is completely unsuited to the piano. And so, it's for me, it's not even worth debating. But it's a very good exercise for your young, developing musical mind to hear these things and say, gee, is it really written with an orchestra in mind, or are some of these things written with the piano in mind? Some of it is, some of it isn't. And it makes you listen. I mean, the whole idea behind acquiring a love of music, and for me anyway, getting into classical music particularly, was the ways we can listen, to focus on the act of listening, to be taught that the act of listening in and of itself is sufficient to give you a complete entertainment, a complete sensory experience. And Pictures in an Exhibition, because it exists in these different versions, does that. And it does that even more because there are other versions besides Ravel's. So if you get into it, you can make a whole career out of different versions of Pictures in an Exhibition, as some conductors, such as Leonard Slatkin, have done. He hasn't made his career out of it, but he's done a lot of Pictures in an Exhibition stuff. So it's just a feast. It's a feast of listening, creative listening, learning while listening. And I just can't think of anything better. I really can't. It's so comprehensive in all of the ways it makes you listen. It's a clinic. It really is. And so, by the way, is A Night on Bald Mountain, which was the coupling to Pictures in an Exhibition. Of course, Ormandy recorded the Rimsky-Korsakov arrangement. Then there's Mussorgsky's original version. And then there's the Stokowski arrangement. And for me, I mean, that was a whole experience, because I had that Ormandy recording and I loved that Ormandy recording. I was like, yeah, that was the piece. But my grandmother in Wilmington, Delaware, my mother's mother, had a couple big boxes of those Reader's Digest, great classic series collections. And in one of those multi-disc boxes was A Night on Bald Mountain. I think it was conducted by Yasha Horenstein or someone like that, but it was the Stokowski transcription. And I thought, oh, I love this. Let's listen to it. And I put it on and I just went, what the hell is that? It was so different sounding. In color, it was the same piece, obviously. It was recognizable, but it sounded totally different. And what a learning experience that was, to hear these two different orchestrations of the same piece, neither of which was original, by the way, and to be able to compare them and think, oh, I like this one, I like that one. I mean, it's the active engagement with the music that these pieces encourage, by their very provisional nature, the provisional nature in which Mussorgsky left them, and the way they've been handled since. And I for me, it was a whole world of learning and listening and experience and newness and musical wonderment. It really was. All because of Eugene Ormandy and the Philly doing Pictures in an Exhibition. It was one of the great musical experiences of my life, one of the great encounters of my life. And people, of course, insist, or you hear constantly, how the great encounters have to be with the greatest masterpieces by the greatest composers. It's Bach, it's Beethoven, it's Brahms. It's like, no, my dears, it's not. It's whatever floats your boat. It's whatever turns you on. It's whatever makes you listen in the most productive way possible. And of course, the lessons we learn, the enjoyment we get out of listening to pictures in an exhibition, those experiences you bring to bear on everything else, by composers great and small, because it's the joy of listening that matters. And it's a joy that you bring with you throughout your life. And Mussorgsky taught me that. Mussorgsky really did. And I got it from Mom and Grandma. And it didn't need to be specifically forced on me or spoon-fed. You just take a look at this, turn yourself loose, go with it. What a wonderful, wonderful way to begin to experience this unbelievable repertoire. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.